Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a three-nation tour strengthening India's global ties. He has wrapped up a landmark visit to Jordan today. This was the first full bilateral trip of Prime Minister Modi and in 37 years, marking 75 years of diplomacy. The key outcomes included multiple MOUs that were signed on renewable energy, water management, digital transformation and cultural ties, including twinning Petra and Ellora caves. Prime Minister addressed a business forum as well, targeting $5 billion in bilateral trade, and discussed regional stability and counter-terrorism with King Abdullah II. There was warm personal diplomacy that shone through, with the Crown Prince Al Hussein driving him to the Jordan Museum and airport farewell as well. Today, Prime Minister Modi also arrived in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia for his first ever state visit to the country. In a special gesture, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali personally received him at the airport, drove him to the hotel and made an unscheduled stop at the Science Museum in Friendship Park as well. Agenda included bilateral talks on trade, investment, agriculture, digital infrastructure, renewable energy and defense. Addressing Ethiopia's parliament on India's democracy and global South partnership, plus meeting the Indian diaspora. The visit boosts ties with Indian investments already over $5 billion. The Prime Minister is touring 3 countries in a span of 4 days. His ongoing tour is making headlines not just for the deals but for the delightful carpool diplomacy. In Jordan, Crown Prince Al Hussein bin Abdullah II personally took the wheels of his BMW, driving the Prime Minister to the Jordan Museum in a warm gesture symbolizing deep friendship. Hours later, it was in Ethiopia that Nobel laureate Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed greeted Prime Minister at the Parliament and then drove him to the hotel himself with an unscheduled detour to the Science Museum in Friendship Park. These personal gestures highlight extraordinary respect and strengthening of bonds between India and these respective nations. Let's open up this discussion. Ambassador Basuti Mukherjee is on the telecast with me. And Ambassador Mukherjee, I do want to understand from you, while trade is very important, particularly with Jordan and Oman, and of course talking about people-to-people connect, skilling network that India is building with Ethiopia particularly, what is the key highlight of this 3-nation 4-day tour of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to mostly West Asia?
Thank you, Megha. These countries are extremely important. Jordan, as we had also discussed yesterday, and now the visit is complete, is a very important country, crucial country in the Middle East, like Egypt, plays a key role with regard to the whole issue of Palestinians versus Israel, and also plays a very important role in ensuring peace and stability in the region and a voice of moderation, whether it's Jordan or whether it's Egypt. Now, as far as Addis is concerned, as we call it, Addis is the capital of the AU headquarters. It was Prime Minister Modi who invited the AU to be a permanent member of the G20, a gesture which was greatly appreciated. And in fact, Addis Ababa's main importance is that it has been for a long time the capital of the African Union headquarters. Yes. And has a very warm relationship with India. Oman, again, is very important to us, not just because of the flourishing Indian diaspora, but the fact that Oman, like Jordan, has always spoken up for India where it matters, including in the OIC. Oman is a voice of moderation again, and the business relationship is very important. For instance, Jordan gives us a lot of fertilizers, which we require. Oman and India have a flourishing bilateral trade. The figures may be a little lower because of the smaller population. For instance, Jordan has a small population, and so does Oman. But on the other hand, unlike Jordan, Oman has a much larger Indian diaspora. And as far as Addis is concerned, Addis is very important for us. Ethiopia is very important for us because of our growing ties with Africa, and because the Africans regard India, unlike China, as the face of real development. Because we don't go into Africa to exploit African resources and bring them back to India. We teach the African self-sustainable development, something which is much appreciated in Africa, and
Right.
we are expanding this. So I would say that this visit, and as you said, the carpool diplomacy, the gesture of driving him to the airport or receiving him from the airport, this in diplomatic protocol is never done. I'm hearing about these things for the first time after 40 years in foreign service. They show how much these countries appreciate and care for the Indian Prime Minister who's come on a bilateral visit. Otherwise, they would never do it. They are
Right.
doing it
Okay.
in India. It means a really big deal as far as the relationship is concerned. Megha.
Yeah, I think this carpool diplomacy, if I may call it, I think began with President Putin. It was on the sidelines of the SCO summit, and he took Prime Minister Modi for a ride in his own bulletproof vehicle. You know, the same one that he was traveling in over here in Delhi as well. And I think the gesture was reciprocated by the Prime Minister of India as well, because he went and received President Putin at the airport and took him in his official vehicle, and of course there was that informal dinner that both of them partook in. All right, also getting in Dr. Sharad Kohli, important deals, and most importantly I would want to talk about the free trade agreement with Oman. Oman being you know, the GCC nation, only second GCC nation with which India is going to be signing that FTA. And while there have been no full-fledged official announcements that have been made by the government of India or the External Affairs Ministry here, the likelihood that the FTA gets signed during PM Modi's visit in the presence of you know, the Commerce Minister of India, Piyush Goyal, who has reportedly been called to be present in Muscat on 17th when the Prime Minister arrives. What does this indicate? And not to mention the statement that has been made by the Prime Minister when he was in Jordan, saying that there is now a need to increase the bilateral trade between both countries, Jordan and India, to $5 billion by the end of 2030.
Well, good evening, Megha, to you, my fellow panelists and Newsx viewers. Well, it just so happened that yesterday when I was on your show, I spoke of this $5 billion number, and you know, I even spoke of 5 billion, and then I said the next would be 10 billion, so one of the two targets. So I think I must put on record my appreciation for a lot of things that Prime Minister Modi does, that he puts a very realistic target. He would not put a target which is snatching away the moon, or which is reaching the moon, you know, just for the sake of it. He puts a target which is achievable in the next, you know, I would say 2, 3 years, 4 years, max 5 years. Up to 2030 is what he targets when he puts these targets, and I think that's very appreciable, because those are the targets. It's, I mean, in management we say you always have a target which is very realistic, which is achievable. Then you're motivated to reach that. And I think $5 billion from current trade of about around $3 billion, a little less than $3 billion, is very, very achievable. And you look at the pact signed between India and Jordan, you know, for me, the biggest takeaway is the digital pact signed and the water resources, because Jordan, as we were talking yesterday, Megha, Jordan lacks water. Jordan is badly in need of water resources and technology related to it. So I think India has this pact would lend a helping hand to Jordan for water, for tackling water scarcity. That's one. And then the digital one is where again India has got a prowess. The world knows what India has done on the digital front, and Jordan is known for startups, for technology innovations. Just the right combination for these two countries to come together. It may be a small country, and then of course, why forget tourism? You know, Petra and Ellora caves coming together for a tourism share. That, you know, I think this will boost tourism from India to Jordan, for that matter.
Yeah.
There aren't many tourists right now traveling to Jordan, but this will boost that particular. As for the carpool diplomacy, although I don't come from the world of diplomatic relations, but I would definitely, I don't call it as carpool diplomacy. I call it as let's drive together diplomacy. Carpool is, you know, when you've got two cars and, you know, you don't want to use your car for various reasons. I just call it as a fun drive. Let's just drive together. in your car, you come in my car, I come in your car. It's not that I'm trying to save fuel of my car. Well, you use carpool term in corporate terminology where you try and save fuel and traffic on a particular road when you're pulling in the car. So this is let's drive together. I say it with on a lighter note. So Oman,
Okay.
yes, Oman, we have a lot of potential, Mega. I think the target for FTA for Oman would be at least 15 to 20 billion dollars in the years to come. That's what I foresee. Although that visit is going to happen now, but then that's my forecast, Mega.
Right, absolutely. Patrick, coming to you and talking about the West Asia policy for Jordan and Oman. We already have an FTA signed with the UAE. Oman becomes the second GCC country with which we are going to be signing an FTA, most possibly tomorrow. And do you think this helps us building a roadmap into the GCC nations? We already have cordial relations with Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and other GCC nations, but does that give us an indication of what lies in the future when it comes to trade and investments with the rest of the GCC nations?
Well, these are continuous process. No government at any point of time will consider that, okay, this has reached a conclusive situation. For example, you may have very good relation with countries like UAE and Saudis, but at times they have, and they still do certain things which it actually raises eyebrows. I think one most important aspect of this visit is that when it comes to Middle East, it is countries like Saudi Arab, UAE, or say Iran and Israel. They actually hog the limelight. Now, the smaller countries have often get squeezed between the geopolitics that are played by the larger ones. I think countries like Oman or Jordan, these countries have always been told to tag along. They have never, given the kind of due weightage they essentially deserve. So invariably, many of these countries fall victim of the pulls and pressures of geopolitics. The GCC countries often have given, even though we have good relation with them, sometimes they are pressurized to take statements or do certain things which are inimical to the interest of India. And therefore, individual visits and having this personal and sovereign diplomatic relation, both are equally important. We have to understand we are going through a typical pivotal shift, geopolitically. And many of these countries, I would not be surprised, also face pressure from the global West or the global North, whatever you say, in terms of sometimes taking a stand against India, because they consider India as the one who is the Pied Piper, pulling the whole of global South towards another zone altogether from the binary that the West have always been, comfortable with, that either you are with us or against us. So I think what Prime Minister Modi has done painstakingly in the last of 10 to 11 years in terms of putting a lot of effort to improve bilateral relations with a lot of countries. I think eventually it does benefit India. I think the most important aspect of it is the BRICS summit of 2026, where I would not be surprised if the African Union as a whole takes a lot of interest and wants to be, if not a permanent member, they cannot, perhaps there are a lot of pulls and pressures, but they would take a lot of interest in what's happening. And that's one area. Sometimes, back to you.
All right. Coming to my fourth guest, Major General Shashi Asthana. I do want to, highlight the fact that the Prime Minister is visiting Ethiopia. The last time he was in Africa was for the G20 summit in Johannesburg. But even before that, he was taking a multi-country tour. I think those were 5 countries, and Ghana was a pit stop. And there is a similar program, engagements that have been arranged in Ethiopia as well, because the Prime Minister would be addressing the joint parliament in Ethiopia tomorrow. Something similar was done in Ghana as well. And the idea over here is to deepen the South-South cooperation and strengthening India's partnership with Africa. Not to mention, it was under India's G20 leadership in 2023 that the African Union became a permanent part of the G20.
Certainly. In fact, this visit of these countries, I call it as a visit to WANA, that is West Asia, North Africa. That is the terminology normally being used by Indians in United Nations. Now let me put it this way, that all these countries, there are certain commonalities which I must say and commonality of the visit. We need to increase our strategic footprints, which is being done. We need to find more markets in the areas where we did not have that kind of markets. I think all these countries fulfill that requirement. We also have diaspora in all these countries. I happen to be posted in Ethiopia, Eritrea from the United Nations side, and I can tell you that Addis Ababa is and Ethiopia is a very important country in a manner that, as was mentioned, AU headquarter has been there for quite long. That had been the center of African politics for quite long. At the same time, they have a India-friendly population. We also have a Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital, and everybody knows there who was Mahatma Gandhi in Ethiopia. That's a very interesting thing to note. So therefore, and also we need to increase our soft power. Soft power, the strategic footprints need to be expanded in all these areas. And then we have certain capabilities which we have demonstrated, whether it is in digital payment system, whether it is in digital renewable energy, whether it is in solar alliance, and whole lot of other areas which we can export to them. And these are ready-made markets for all these capabilities which we have generated, and they can also earn us revenues. Now, this is in this turbulent world, it is the time when we are looking at every single market and increasing the exports with
Right.
every single country which we are trading with. So I think in that context, if we put everything in that context, I think it is a very fruitful and a very positive step in this direction to perhaps improve upon our capabilities and
Okay.
exploit our capabilities
Right.
to the advantage of both the countries
Okay.
or both sides.
Ambassador Mukherjee, this visit comes at the fag end of the year. It's December already. We are looking at everything that is on the anvil come January. It is going to be chock-a-block the first quarter. We are expected to see the visit of the German Chancellor. We are expected to have the EU President and the European Council President for our 26th January celebrations. An FTA with the European Union is highly likely, hopefully, in the first quarter of the year itself. How do you see the year has ended, and particularly the timing that the Prime Minister has chosen to visit West Asia?
The timing is crucial because we are balancing out our relations with Israel on one hand and with the Arabs on the other, particularly in view of the radicalization of moderate Arab opinion, of Israeli treatment of normal, non-radicalized Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Under those circumstances, India has always played a balancing role. We are highly respected by the Israelis, and we have a special relationship with many Arab states, and this was much required. Each visit that was selected, as has been discussed here by my co-panelists and you, is an important and crucial country from different perspectives. Jordan, because of its geographical position, because of its closeness on one hand with the Israelis and with the Americans, and the role that they play in balancing out the entire Palestinian-Israeli issue. Similarly, Oman, very important, very vibrant Indian diaspora, very friendly relations, and as Dr. Sharad Kohli pointed out about the FTA. And Addis, which I have visited myself when I was with the UN, crucial African Union headquarters for a long time, looked up to because of that, and great gratitude from Africa because G20 now has AU as a permanent member. This is very important at a time when, for instance, we've heard reports that President Trump does not want to invite South Africa for the G20 summit, which is going to be held in the United States. This
Yeah.
is one way of showing support to Africa without getting into Trump's hairs, crosshairs, in my opinion. So many subtle messages have gone from these visits, and in my opinion, they are being balanced out again in January, as you rightly pointed out. India-EU summit and FTA, they, for the first time, being invited for 26 January, where I'm sure that the EU will be extremely impressed by the Republic Day function. All the Goras are completely mind blown by our Republic Day function because they cannot organize anything half as good in any European capital. I can tell you that, having spent so much of my time there. They are completely and totally mind blown by our Republic Day parade. So these are subtle ways, Megha, we are conveying different diplomatic messages. And I have to say, I agree with Dr. Sharad Kohli on what he said about carpool diplomacy. It's not carpool diplomacy. I would call it, let's take a ride together and show our friendship. I think it's a better way of putting
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yes. All right. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me, speaking to me on this very important